Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for
the 2022 SmackDown.
UnSpun.
Oh, George, were you watching the Oscars?
Yeah. I mean, I said I wasn't going to watch the Oscars, and then I watched the Oscars. And Amanda and I were we used to go to parties and stuff. Now it's just me and Amanda sitting there watching TV, kind of doing other stuff. And then we're just kind of watching and Chris Rock doing his shtick. And then, yeah, it was surreal because we're like, what? That, oh, ha, ha, ha. And then all the sound went, and you saw, he went to the shot of Will Smith just going nuts. It was, I literally felt sick. I've never felt like that watching something before, except when I think about when I was in high school and you saw the bully beating up, getting in fights with other kids, or being bullied myself. That feeling that's like, this is not a good feeling. I do not like this. And that's what it felt like. It was so weird. I'm watching it on television, and this is the Oscars. This is so out of
surreal
madness. It's madness.
Yeah. That pit of your stomach.
Yeah.
Ill feeling that the world has gone to the next level of madness. Yes. when this is happening before our eyes, and it's undeniably not a bit. Like, you could see right away that it wasn't a bit.
Maybe this is a bit, but yeah.
At first when he was walking up, but as soon as he hit, as soon as Will Smith
laughing at first, and he's smiling.
Right. He's like, oh, here we go. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, oh, there's a bit here, or whatever. But then, and I got to tell you, George, back in the late 80s, I worked in comedy clubs. Okay. So I was a waitress at what was the Flying Club, and then the Comedy Club, and then it became Yuck Yucks. It was the one down on the Plaza of Nations, the heyday of comedy.
Yep.
I cannot tell you the number of clunker, poor taste, beyond the pale, horrible jokes that have been told in the name of comedy. Okay.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to debate alopecia, one of my best friends has alopecia universal, which is the one that you lose every single follicle on your body permanently. That is not what Jada Pinkett Smith has, just to be aware. So I get it. I get alopecia.
Sure.
Nobody should be made fun of for a health issue. I'm not 100% sure that Chris Rock knew about her alopecia, to be honest. But that is totally aside.
I didn't.
Hitting people is never okay. Hitting people is never okay. Ever.
And just on the comedy stuff, my friend Harry Dupe, who actually listens to this podcast, stand-up comedian. I went to high school with him. Old friends, and he was back in the heyday of Yuck Yucks, punchlines in Vancouver. And you heard this a lot. Wanda Sykes, a lot of stand-up comedians are saying this puts this. It can be a bad joke, but the line between the stage and the audience, you can't break that barrier.
You cannot.
And this basically allows anybody now to go. And Chris Rock made a joke last night and they kicked this guy out. He said, "Are you going to pull a gun on me? Are you going to? Is this?" And they had to escort this guy out in the audience who was harassing him so much at his live concert last night, his live show last night.
Yep.
This is the state we're in because of what Will Smith did. And then you hear the story that the Academy Awards, they tried to get him out and he wouldn't leave.
Yeah.
He wouldn't leave. And I mean, I don't know what this is.
Here's the thing.
Like, holy crap. I mean, the PR people, you saw these shots of them all strategizing with Will Smith, okay, here's what we're going to do. And he comes out and he doesn't even apologize to Chris Rock. The first thing for a strategic communications plan on a crisis situation is if you think there's a need to apologize, you do that. And he didn't. And he did it the next day, which is not cool. And let's go back to
the people who sort of rallied around Will Smith, not the victim of assault in Chris Rock, who, by the way, handled it in a way that deserves to be acknowledged in a big way. Like, on a stage, knowing it's nerve-wracking enough to be presenting or at all involved in the Academy Awards, but to have that happen and then be able to continue to move the show forward is, as somebody who's done hosting on a very minor level comparatively, but I have been to the dress rehearsal for the Oscars before. Fun fact, I've actually sat in the audience at the theater while the night before or the afternoon before everybody comes out just wearing their civvies and runs through the whole show, right? So of course the G.I. Jane 2 joke was not in the dress rehearsal. He was riffing off the cuff, which is what Chris Rock does,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he says this joke. Will Smith laughs. Jada rolls her eyes, looks at Will, and you don't even see Will's reaction
No.
change. Next thing you know, he's slapping Chris Rock and coming off looking like, look at me. It was such toxic masculinity in an overt,
Yeah.
crazy ass way that I just personally, as somebody who has spent, as I said, in the comedy clubs, it's dangerous now for comedians because that was allowed. And to be asked to leave, you don't get asked to leave. Excuse me, come with me. And you know what you do when he wins Best Actor Oscar? You have the person who's presenting say, he's not coming up
Oh,
on
that's what
stage. I will accept it on his
that's
behalf.
what that's what Wanda Sykes said on Ellen. I watched this clip. She sort of said,
Oh, right.
"I was so looking forward to going up, to say that line, and sorry, Will Smith couldn't make it tonight. It's like because
Right.
we yanked him out of here, and he's in jail. It's just nuts. I don't even
I
know.
want to say one more thing because his acceptance speech, my friend Leah Goche is the co-creator of the Jan show. She's very smart and funny, and she's like, this is like the worst thing. And I said, we went for a walk together, and she's like, what about Will Smith? And I was like, well, this is what I think. She's right. And she referenced his acceptance speech. She goes, you mean the gaslighting TED Talk? And I thought that's the best line ever because it was
Yeah.
a gaslight. It's like, love makes you do crazy things. Now you're a harbinger of love in your violence, please. And then, the Scientology community rallying around them and, coming at the others. And it was just, I prefer the Oscars when the best of the best of any theatrical production, movie, what have you, makeup artist, blah, 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 is so nervous to step up there that their hands are shaking. They're professionals at this and their hands are shaking. I want to go back to the Oscars where nobody's dropping F-bombs, George.
Well, I watch the Oscars for the spontaneity, to be honest. You want
Yeah,
there to be gaffes. You want there to be screw ups. You want there to be things that weren't scripted. That's
totally.
kind of, you want to see screw ups. That's kind of, but this was a beyond the pale of what's a screw up. And I think because that violence is just, it's just, I can't explain it. I mean, and you talk about Chris Rock. Yeah. Him literally taking the punch and then going back to script. You and I, I know when I filled in at CKNW and there's these moments where stuff happens and everything's falling apart and you're like, you got to fill and you're
Say
not
something.
prepared for that. And you got to say something. And literally sometimes I feel like I'm about to hyperventilate because you're like, because if you've used up all your material that you thought you had to fill in the void, or you don't know what's happening, what's going on. You're kind of,
or when it's going to come to an end.
Yeah, you're a million miles an hour. Things are going in your head. And you're trying. Okay, I have to talk. I have to say things out of my mouth at the same time. For him to pull that off, you could see though, he was just like he was trying to. His composure he was definitely off. But
what do you think should happen? Should they take the award away, or should they just make it so he can't come next year?
Yeah, 100%. They should take the award away. 100%. They're right to do that, and they should. They have to make an example of him. That's the only example they can make. And they should ban him from the Academy. I mean, what he should be arrested. Chris Rock's not willing to go that route. I would imagine once Chris Rock looks at the damage to his career, not like it's because now he's a meme. He's a
everybody's always going to associate him with this forever. You're right.
Yeah, it's changed the trajectory of his life in a big way, and maybe positive for the moment, but for the rest of his life, Chris Rock is going to be known the guy got slapped by Will Smith at the Oscars. That's what he's going to be known for when he dies. In the obit, that's what it's going to say. That has a significant dollar value to it for Chris Rock. And I would say, and I see other people who are supporting Chris Rock saying he needs to go get a couple of $100 million out of Will Smith. And I think that's where this will go eventually. Not because Chris Rock needs the money, but he needs to make a statement without putting the guy in jail, which he could do.
This goes back to swift and meaningful consequences for bad actors. And I don't mean that pun there. I mean, whether you're slapping somebody across the face or harassing them online, which we've seen more prevalent every day, or random attacks downtown Vancouver and somebody gets caught, you don't just take them in and book them and then release them. There needs to be meaningful, swift, and equal consequence to their actions. And I agree with you. I'm not sure about taking the award away because there are a lot of people who have awards that are their art Roman Polanski, Harvey Weinstein. You hear all these names thrown around, people that are like, but
Yeah, but
certainly
this
I
was
do
at
not
the
expect.
event.
No, I
This
agree with
was,
you. I agree with
I
you. I
mean,
agree with you. I agree with you that at the event is next level. But Marlon Brando has sent people up, and there was no violence associated with that. But like you say, that we're tuned in to watch a live event. I think the Academy was right to say that they handled it poorly in the moment. I hope that, yeah,
I
and Will
just want
Smith's
to.
dancing and singing "Get Jiggy with It" at the after party to
Oh
me
my
was
God,
just like,
I can't believe he went. I must say also from a technical point of view, from you and I, we know that in radio and TV, there's a delay, at least a 10-second delay that they had. So I know they ran with it. They saw it happening. They could have stopped and gone to black
that's
screen
why
or,
they killed the audio. They killed the audio so he
no,
couldn't
but they
yell.
they when
Yeah,
they saw
yeah,
him and he walking up on stage,
yeah. They could have cut away.
they saw that slap and they could have they had enough time to not for us not to see that. And I
You're
think
right.
we shouldn't have
You're
seen
right.
that because the
I've
damage
never,
that's
I've,
done
I've
is
never thought of it
huge.
that way.
Yeah, so
That's
I
a
think they let
really,
us down on many, many, many levels. The Academy, so they need to be, called to task as well. They need to be questioned about their, whether the production crew, everybody
yeah,
needs to be, everything needs to be
held to
analyzed
account
about
there.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what? I stepped on you about 9 million times in that, but that's a really salient point that I have not heard brought up yet. Is that there was an opportunity to not air that. There absolutely was. Because if there was a streaker who ran across the stage, we wouldn't have seen that. We wouldn't have seen it. Let's move on to other things. The visit to the Vatican, the latest news from the
yeah,
Canadian First Nations, the Indigenous
rumored.
visit. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the Pope apparently coming to Canada
They
and
say so.
going
He
to
hasn't said
apologize.
so, but yeah, going to apologize. Yeah, the Pope. I don't think so. I'm sorry. I mean, it's wishful thinking. Here we have a multi-billion-dollar corporation. It's a church, yes, I know, but it's also a massive corporation. And guess what corporations have? A lot of lawyers.
Lawyers. Yeah, right.
And the Pope's lawyers are, I am sure, telling him, dude, I'm sure they talk to him like this, dude,
I
Pope,
don't think
dude,
so, but I get what you're
don't,
saying.
you can't
Maybe they
go
did.
there. Yeah, maybe they did. You can't. They would have said it in Italian. I don't know what dude is in Italian, but dudo. Um, so
No.
they will absolutely be saying to him when you talk about spin, they're like, this is like, dude, you can't do this because if you apologize, that opens up the opportunity for reparations of cash, which of course absolutely is deserved, and all sorts of reparations are required. But I don't think the Catholic Church wants to be literally financially liable for anything, and by
Right.
apologizing, that puts them in there. Because what then? Do they apologize for the Spanish Inquisition? Do they apologize for what else? King Henry VIII. I mean, I don't know. I mean, how far back do we
It's
go for the
it's like
Catholic
watching
Church
the
to suddenly?
monarchy. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like watching the monarchy with the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge doing their apology tour in the Caribbean
yeah.
and down to Barbados and what have you, as the shift is there and they're trying to be like, we're different now. We're just different now. Super sorry about that. But there's no like, here's all the money that we made off the backs of your people, which is really what the church would need to do. Like it was the catalyst in trying to assimilate uh, the Indigenous peoples in Canada
Yeah.
into Catholicism. Like there's no
Well,
way
what's
to repair
contract
that.
with there's
Right.
a contract with our government and the Catholic Church to
Yeah.
do this. Like here, let's put an RFP out. Oh, the Catholic Church came in with the best bid. Let's go with them. I mean, what kind of it's like madness. But
It is madness.
I just think that there's no way the Catholic Church, if they do, great. But I would say that they open
I hope
themselves up
so.
for every single place that they've made trouble in, and there are many. And this is
Many.
not a slam
And
against the Catholic
continue.
Church. It's just
No,
I'm just saying
it's
they
facts.
have been accused of a lot of things,
It's
which
facts.
it's facts and it's cash, and I'm not sure they're going to want to. The lawyers will drive the agenda here for the Catholic Church, and I think we've seen that already. They would have apologized. Look at, I mean, I don't even get it. There's just endless.
I'm
Point.
going to jump in on this and say what I'd like to see happen next is for the artifacts that the visiting group identified in the Vatican Museum as being either forced labor made under duress or the really personal ceremonial items that were never meant to be taken off of
Mm-hmm.
that particular nation's land. Like there were a couple things that were identified that were really like, listening to one of the delegates say, when I saw that ceremonial pipe, I know that's not for other people. You're not even supposed to show that outside of your nation. That is sacred and ceremonial. And it's like, give that back right now. Like give it all, send it all in a nice little Vatican bow and send it back to the people that might want to have it as part of their cherished. And I'm a real sentimental fool. My house is filled, like all of these pictures that are behind me are my grandmother's. I don't know what they're worth and I don't care. They hung in her house. That makes them
I
priceless to me. And that's what I'm talking about. It's not about
I think
what
that
those items are worth. It's what their value is to the Indigenous person whose parent, grandparent, great grandparent made it.
if you were planning the Pope's visit, what you might recommend based on that is when the Pope comes, he brings this big thing of stuff and presents it and says, "Here you go. Sorry, we took this stuff. Sorry, we took this stuff.
Good
Not
spin.
sorry, not
Right.
sorry,
Not
not
sorry for
sorry
the
we did
abuse on the
that.
children and
Sorry, we
the
took this stuff and made you do the stuff. Here's some stuff." That way they can, that's a way they might find a way to get around by saying sorry without saying sorry. We'll see, but I'm skeptical that he even will come. I don't know. This is a rumored visit, and I'm highly skeptical that he'll take that kind of risk.
I want to go kids to kids here before we get into more politics, because I saw
Mm-hmm.
a post from BCTF outgoing President Terry Mooring that she put out today saying, the repair and upkeep investment in schools in British Columbia, the disaster that they are right now. There's so many people saying we need upgraded ventilation systems, and Terry's like, guys, the buildings are falling down. Nobody's fixing what's broken. Never mind upgrading. So Terry kind of put that out there, and it was interesting because you and I talk obviously before we start our podcast, but we do so, light topic like this one, this one,
Yeah.
this one, this one. And it was really quite informative what you brought to the table on this. I'm not a PAC member. I don't serve on the PAC.
Yes.
My son doesn't want me anywhere near his school.
Well, there's two areas. I was on my PAC at my kid's school for a long time before I got into politics, which PAC's kind of politics, I guess. And
kind
then
of.
obviously, yeah, we had a really nice PAC, I must say. We were a lovely group, and we all were really close, and it was a really fun time. And I was the chair for I think 5 or 6 years,
Wow.
and it was, but one of the things that we were always frustrated about was the relationship between the principal, the staff, the cleaning staff, like the janitors, that you can't, we would say, hey, well, the bathroom's falling apart. Can we, we got a carpenter on our PAC, we got an electrician, we got a plumber. We can probably come in a weekend, do a little paint job. Nope. I think you and I have talked about this before. You can't do that. You can't do that. And then I would say to, the principal, hey, can we open up the gym at night? Well, you can, but the janitor's got to be there to oversee this, because that's the rule with these rules that are so complicated for just that on the PAC, so frustrating. And then when I was in office, one of the biggest issues that was it wasn't related to city council, it was school board in Vancouver. And I think this is the challenge in a lot of school boards, maybe because of their experience, but in our case, it was just politics and not focused. The funding by the BC Liberals was put in place for all school boards to be able to seismically upgrade their schools or rebuild their schools, whatever it took. There were millions and millions at their disposal. And in Vancouver, they delayed, they squabbled, they politically, beat each other up. They had all these other things going on. They didn't get anything done. I think, KITS, which two of my kids went to, finally got finished.
That's where my parents went to high school.
Is that right?
I watched that. Yeah, that's where they met, actually.
Ryan
yeah,
Reynolds,
and Ryan Reynolds after he got kicked out of PW. The thing about
anyway,
the schools
so it's just the money was there to do all the reconstruction. You had a school right across the street that was rebuilt.
I do. Raised and then rebuilt seismically appropriate, and there are a bunch of them in the neighborhood that are being done. They had asbestos, they were crumbling, they were brick, whatever. But the thing that really bugs me about the school board planners, I think it's time for a real upgrade in that regard, so that we can address what's actually happening in our schools. Not in the budget, George, is covered outdoor area. Kids are in school from September to June, And
In
those
Vancouver.
are in Vancouver,
Where it
the
rains.
rainiest months of the year. And
Yeah.
it's mandatory the kids go outside at recess and lunch. And
Yeah.
there's always been covered areas. That's where we would meet as kids in this
Well,
province,
we used to
really,
call them
and
smoke
anywhere.
pits, didn't we?
There was some smoke, but at the high schools they would
High
be.
schools, yeah.
But at the elementary school, we'd play Foursquare, or we'd like
Hopscotch.
roll over, hopscotch, all the things that we did before there were
Playing
electronics in our
cards.
hands, where we all just said,
Or
yeah,
hockey cards.
hockey cards. Oh my God, Gary Smith, perfectly bent corner every time I won, every time. Anyways.
Wait, Gary? Gary Smith was, because I had a friend named Kerry Smith, and he always would win.
Gary
the
Smith,
game.
the goalie. Yeah.
Got it.
Anyhow, I just wanted to put that out there. The outgoing BCTF president, we should keep a good ear to the ground on Terry Mooring about what's happening in this province. She is in a position where she's just like, right?
Check your school board vote in October. You got council, you got mayors, you got this, but look at your school board. What are they doing? Because that's who decides what the priorities of what gets built and how our schools are built in our every town in the province. Is not the province provides the cash potentially for the rebuilds.
Right.
So
let's not jump to our provincial stories for today. Let's stick with the city election, because when you say that, I want to reiterate, I'm going to do this every week until your birthday, yes. October 15th, 2022. Every week I'm going to say it is on us to not be distracted by the sparkly things that are put out there politically to confuse the messaging. We need to know our candidate. We need to know their platform. We need to challenge those platforms. And because what we're seeing right now, I literally don't even know what the latest release from the current mayor of Vancouver about the spin on the two councillors who put it forward, who saved the day, who came in late, who was there. It's built to confuse us, George.
I tweeted this, and so if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can see my latest tweet, George_Affleck, and you are
at Jody Vance, Jody with a Y, at Jody Vance.
Well, anyways, I tweeted today about this election is going to be ugly, it's going to be confusing, and it's going to be full of factual challenges that are untruths. And I'm not saying that specifically that tweet that I'm talking about today it's confusing what it is. I'm going to go, it's
confusing.
Which one is which? I don't know who's telling the truth.
You brought it up to me and I'm like, is this about the cup thing? Is this about now people with vouchers can get the 25 cents from the cup? And you're like, no, it's the other thing. And it's like, what other thing? Clearing the backlog. So housing affordability.
Everybody wants to take credit for it now, even though, guess what? We haven't cleared a backlog. Come on. I mean, who wants to take credit for clearing a backlog of?
I know who.
Come on. Oh, good job.
Communications
5 years now.
Communications people. Where's your glass? Clink it, my friend. Clink. Boom. 43 communications people want us to know that the sitting mayor is in charge of all the backlog being cleared that isn't cleared.
Well, the mayor has his machine now, his election machine, and they're full force attacking the MPA, which is interesting because that shows you that they see the MPA as their biggest threat. He literally is referring to two people that aren't actually MPA anymore, but calling them MPAers because he doesn't know where they're going to land. They may land.
That's Sarah Kirby Young,
and
Lisa?
Rebecca. Was it Lisa? Yeah. I don't know 3. I to check, but I don't know.
But it needs to be pointed out again for those who don't hit this every week, which by the way, you should watch and listen to UnSpun every week. Those former NPA counselors, specifically women who had not been considered for that role that John Cooper has.
Yeah, well,
right, but that's why I'm putting it into context. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but but for them to be now tagged,
the MPA never has open nominations. They never have. There's another spin that they're saying that the mayoral candidate generally has always, except for the last election where John and Ken Sim fought it out and pretty much and Ken won. I think back to your first point, please, everyone, do your research. Don't get lost in the mire or the mess, the Twitter world, or what you might hear at debates. Look at the individuals, learn about them, choose them. You don't have to pick all 10 people from council or all the city or all the. You can just be selective, choose the best candidates.
Right, so and if you don't know, don't vote for the candidate that has served you wrong in the last term. And I'm very much going to vote that way when it comes to park board. I'm going to be very, very sure that the outspoken people who had said one thing before being elected to that position and then did exactly the opposite. And that's going to be a reminder each and every day. A couple other things we got to get to, and we're short on time and long on topics. We were predicting the ICBC. You predicted correctly last week that it would be a rebate. Oh, $110, George. How do you feel?
It's ridiculous, and because I think we talked about it. I said I hope I don't think it should be an ICBC rebate. I think it should be something that for everyone in this province who's struggling with inflation. The issue is inflation is not, but of course the NDP have mandated that the ICBC revenue, because of the Liberals were pulling cash out of it, has to be kept within ICBC. So they created this bit of a monster of huge amount of cash injection that they can't use, so it's restricted. So, but then just don't give me the money back. Just reduce my rates next year, because I don't need $110.
But when they reduce the rate, they have to, in theory, keep it low or give a reason for raising it again. So a little rebate here and a rebate there doesn't make it so over the next 5 years.
I think you have
amount,
2 years.
I'd like to see it,
frankly. There's a solid data that shows that that getting rid of the no-fault insurance is very effective, while very unfair. I don't know if you heard a story about the cyclist.
I did.
Has to pay $3,500 for car repairs because he had no insurance. I mean, I don't know where that's going to land.
It's an argument. It's an argument for cyclist insurance. Frankly, it's an argument for insurance on your bike, which I wrote about a couple of years ago.
That's
and when you said to me, you're like,
"Can you
good luck with that
for us?"
I will. I'll find that one and I'll put it out there.
That's totally true.
I mean, it's the way we got to go. It's the way we got to go. It's the only way. That poor cyclist, multiple surgeries, busted, CT scans, everything, and he owes for the car repair. That's
but
just
you can
too
bet.
much.
You can
but
bet
there were people who are like,
you can bet that every car driver is going, sure, that cyclist, they ran
I'm a car driver, and I wouldn't say that. But even if the cyclist ran a stop sign, we could have a whole half hour on 100%. This.
Yep.
But you don't. Yeah, I'm just glad nobody died, because when it's car versus cyclist, that's like a gun at a knife fight. I do want to make sure that we get to a couple of things here. One, because we are talking cars, let's skip over to gas and oil and Ukraine and Putin.
Gun and a knife fight. That's kind of how Putin is trying to treat. I saw a guy talking about the relationship between NATO and Putin, and it's like a gang fight, because that's how Putin acts. But he said what NATO doesn't understand, they're the guys with the gun, and he's the guy with the knife. And they are not acting like they have the power over him, and they're letting him walk over them because he's not there. He's just using his gang mentality from his kid when he was a teenager. Anyways, but the oil and gassing, it's just, there's a great column in today's, we should watch anybody on the Orca.
Rashid Hussein Syed has a great column at the Orca.ca about whether or not we can, because that's what the rhetoric is. That's what the spin is. It's like Canada can be the oil supplier, gas and oil supplier for North America and all Europe. Apparently we can't.
Guess what we didn't do? And this is why this whole argument of ethical oil in the past, and he talks about this in the column, is that it's why Canada should be the provider of oil and gas, because we're a stable country, we're ethical, we have a process for where the profits go, we have all taxation, all of these things. Oil is expensive to extract, but it funds our country, and you can predict, it's predictable. Yet we have our own government, and continuing this week, even the Prime Minister basically doubling down on the environment and not even talking about oil and gas and how we're going to solve this. And we have the Prime Minister, President of the United States, also sticking with the environmental measures. I get it. Climate change. But we're about to have a world war. If nuclear attack happens, it doesn't matter anymore. We're dead. So can we just focus? But we didn't spend all those years talking about ethical oil and Canada's ability to do this if we could. So we can get off of Saudi's oil, we can get off of Russia's oil, not us, but the Western countries who are relying on Russia, and we rely on, it's just, why? Anyways, it's just so frustrating. And now here we are, we have on the precipice of a world war, basically because we stopped oil production in Canada. I'm sorry, but don't come at me for being a lover of oil. I'm talking about common sense here, that we could have provided the empowered so many countries in so many places, and controlled and improve the environment at the same time. Here we have countries that are, who knows what, anyways, it's so frustrating.
I'm going to take back the conch here. I get what you're saying, and we're going to continue this conversation because it's an important one to have about where we stand as the country. We're this teeny tiny large country, right? We're small and big and rich in natural resources, and trying to do the ethical thing, trying to also, continue with our resources being what is the engine that feeds our GDP. Like, there's that. So, but I want to focus on Ukraine, if I may, just with the last few seconds here. In my column, read my column about this initiative that this young law student and her mom are doing here in the Lower Mainland. SlavaSweatshirts.com. I bought one. The story of how it kind of came to be in my world. It's a great sweatshirt. When I wear it, it gets a ton of attention from people. Where did you get that? SlavaSweatshirts.com. And all proceeds go to the Red Cross and to the Bank of Ukraine, which I think is really smart, propping up the bank in Ukraine when we're watching infrastructure just crumble at the hand of Vladimir Putin. So I just wanted to just put that out there. So read it, the Orca.ca, sign up for the Fin, and there's some exciting stuff to come this week. So make sure you're tuned in on the Orca.ca.
And on that note,
bye, George.